But um, the military operations are a distraction, generally speaking. And I predicted Iraq in its invasion and occupation about a year before it happened. Maybe it was a little bit longer than that. And I predicted 9/11, but I didn't know what the event was going to be. But I did it the November before, and I figured out, well, the timing for a false flag operation should be around October the 16th. And, of course, it was 9/11. But I get close, and that's pretty good for guessing, backing into it. And that's why they got Afghanistan going. Of course, there's a pipeline there, and that's important to the powers that be, if you may. And of course, it's a great geopolitical position from which you can operate to a number of places, all the way from China through Russia. And so there's other aspects of that, but the money's being spent to keep the distraction going. And on top of it, everybody involved, including the military at the highest levels and the contractors, they're all just raping the American public. And anybody that's been in recently, like you have in the Marine Corps, knows that. Incidentally, I do a program every Thursday, which is on Blog Talk. I've done it for 4 or 5 years. It's called the American Disquisition, and that program goes out primarily to retired as well as on-duty military personnel, and particularly Marines and Navy. And I've been doing that a long time because I'm a veteran, and I found that most people in the military don't know much about finance, and so I try to help them.
In fact, the latest policy has been changed. A lot of the military bases in the United States are target of financial mismanagement by credit loaning companies. And so they had to change it because a lot of the military members are coming back and are financially unstable. I mean, you can't necessarily just come back to your job. And the money that you have saved from being on the field, that hazard duty pay, if you have a family of just one child and a wife, that money's gone within a few months. And so now you're out there trying to get back into the job market. A lot of people have a hard time rehiring veterans. And so a lot of these guys came out and had to go get a credit card. Now here's compounding the problem. Now you're reservist, you're off work, you have a wife and a child to support, a family to support. Now you have a credit card at 38% interest. You're not going to pay that card off in your lifetime, period. So they had to change that, but it's still happening. They're still preying on the military and veterans, and there's no hope in sight.
No, you're right, especially those loans, the payday loans that the people have to get, particularly the ones that have families. And I hear a lot of this on Drew's program, and from all over the world. They can't make it in what they're making, even though they're much better paid. When I first went in, I got $21 a month. And then while I was in, they changed it, and I got $72 a month. I mean, that was a quantum jump. But it was a layover from the Second World War and the Korean War.
So I shouldn't be upset about the $1,400 as an E2 that I got in 1989. Taxes, it came up to about $900.
Well, I went up and down the scale. I went from E1 to E6 and back and forth 3 times. I was a pretty wild guy.
Are the soldiers today in the United States military, are they being paid the equivalent for the duties that they're actually having to commit in service? I mean, is it based on what they're having to accomplish? Are they being paid enough, do you think?
That's hard for me to say. It's something I haven't looked into. I really don't know. Okay. I do know that we shouldn't be paying $100,000 to $200,000 a year to mercenaries.
Right.
And I don't think we should have mercenaries. I think it's wrong, and I know they are among the best that we have to offer, but they shouldn't be coming from private corporations. They should be under the command of the military. And every country in history that has ever had mercenaries has had terrible problems with them.
Right. Now, Dimitri, I'm going to have to take another call here. I see our phones are getting backed up. I want to thank you very much for calling in with Mr. Chapman tonight.
Hey, anytime, man. It was great. Thank you for taking my calls.
You got it. All right, I'm going to go to Hawaii right now, the 808 area code. If you're here, you're on with Bob Chapman, Demcat, and Proof.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, how are you? How are you guys? Thanks for taking my call. You got me?
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I'm okay. I don't know about the other two.
Yeah, we're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Wish you guys were here. Hey, anyway, short story. I like to change the subject a little bit, but my wife did her online banking today, and when she went online, there was a little notice at the home page that our bank is no longer FDIC participating. And as of January 1st. And so, I got a
What's the name of the bank?
It's First Hawaiian Bank, which is the big bank. Or at least in Hawaii, it's a big bank. And its parent bank is BNP Paribas. And
well, that's a French bank.
Yes. And I'm just looking for a little advice. Do I bail or what?
Well, the trend is going to become quite evident as we go toward the end of the year and in the first 6 months of next year. The FDIC is funded by banks. The FDIC, when they receive money from the banks for dues, that money goes into the general fund, and of course the government spends it. But they have a credit. Now, the banks have just, this past 2 weeks, given the FDIC 3 years dues ahead of time.
Wow.
It's $45 billion. And they had another $48 billion that they got from, or have credit from, the general fund. So they have $93 billion. I see reports coming out that people are thinking that in the next year, this year, that about 200 banks will go under. The problem banks are about 278 that the FDIC admits to. My sources who go to Federal Reserve meetings tell me that's 2,055. Now, if 1,000 banks went under, it would cost $500 billion for the FDIC. The FDIC has a credit line with the Treasury Department if they can fulfill it, and that's a question. And I think that more than 1,000 banks, maybe as many as 2,000, will go under in the next year and a half. So they are dropping out of the system now, the banks. And that's going to continue very surreptitiously. And the people who got the CDs, who think they're insured for $250,000, may or may not be. And so what I've been telling people to do, particularly by subscribers to the International Forecaster, is you take and keep in the bank, because you got to have a bank nowadays, and you keep only 3 months' supply of money in that bank account. And, of course, you replenish it each month with the necessary amount to keep you with 3 months. And business is 6 months. People who own CDs should sell them. They should get out of them, take the penalty, and move the money into gold and silver-related assets, bullion, shares, coins, and we help people do that. And we don't charge anything for that. We do it for nothing. The only people that pay anything is the people who subscribe to the publication, which should be selling for $500 a year, not $160 a year. But I keep it down so that the marginal poor people can afford it if they want to. I used to be poor once, so I know what it's all about. And so the banks are going to continue to fall away from FDIC in order to relieve the pressure. And I think the FDIC could be history in the next 18 months, particularly a year to a year and a half from now. And so I think that's the way it's going. Well, I had a fellow on another program earlier today, and I can't remember which one because I did 8 of them or something like that. But he said